Cross-stitching the heart pattern. Your Craft Caboodle Sachet Kit comes with a series of pattern templates to help you cross-stitch the heart pattern. Starting with this one that has all the important points marked on it, where you will either start or end your embroidery, all the way up to this one which has the final product on it. The templates are all laid out in a 24 by 24 grid. This matches the size of the Aida fabric included in the kit. We will be using the pull-through method for this embroidery. I have with me an embroidery needle threaded with 3 strands of embroidery floss and a small knot at the end. Remember to save the other 3 strands of floss as you will be using them later. We will be starting at point A, but this time we will insert our needle from the front to the back. We will then emerge at the top left corner of point B. We will embroider half stitches all the way up to point C. After 2 or 3 stitches are done, we can safely clip the knot that is anchoring your embroidery floss at point A. We will then return to point B and, keeping the number of stitches consistent, embroider the next 2 rows. From point D onwards, we will be reducing 1 stitch at every row, all the way down to F, where we will end our embroidery floss. We will restart our pattern at point G and embroider the bumps that make up the top of the heart. To begin embroidering the heart pattern, we mark points A and B. To do so, refer to diagram 1 and you will see that square A is at 12 and 9 and square B is at 5 and 9. The Aida fabric is a little different from regular fabrics. It consists of a series of checks, in this case 24 in each direction. The corners of each check or square are marked by the holes in the Aida fabric. So when you are marking points A and B, ensure you put your needle into the solid part of the fabric or the center of the square rather than one of the corners. To start at point A, for the pull-through method, we insert our needle from the front to the back in the bottom left of check A. Once you have pulled your thread through, you can safely remove the pin marker. Bring your needle up at the corner, once again bottom left, of check B. We will now sew half stitches all the way to check C. Once you have 3 or 4 stitches sewed down, you can safely clip the knot at point A. Continue stitching half stitches until point C. If you reverse your fabric, you will notice that your little bit of thread on the rear is captured neatly in your stitches. Now that we have reached point C, we reverse directions and go back to point B. In the same way, we will do the next 2 rows. Now that we have completed the first 3 rows of our cross stitch, let's take a look at diagram number 4. If you look carefully, you will see that point D, where our next row starts, is 1 check in from the end of our previous row. To do this, instead of bringing up our needle, at this point, we move it 1 check to the right. On the back of our fabric, you will see a small slanted stitch. We then continue with our half stitches as we did in the previous rows. Since we have a decrease on either side of this row, the number of stitches go from 15 to 13. To decrease the stitch at the other end or point E, simply stop sewing half stitches 1 check early. Bring it up in the bottom right corner of the square and start making your second half slip to go back to point D. We have been reducing 1 stitch at the start and end of every row for the last 6 rows. We're now at the point where we're going to make the single stitch that forms point F, or the tip of the heart. Bring your needle up, go to the top right corner, make the complete cross stitch and end with your needle on the rear of the fabric. Flip your piece over and start to weave your needle in and out of the stitches above point F. So in one way, slope the needle in the opposite direction and go up the previous stitch. Slope it back to the left and slope it to the right. And snip it. Your stitching has been neatly finished and anchored.